Hey everybody, it's Professor Kettler. I'm going to give you this kind of overview of how you should complete your final project for Environmental 101. So this paper is broken down into 3 sections and it covers quite a bit of information from all of your milestones and discussions and things like that from all the previous modules. And so this is just kind of an outline of what you're going to put in your paper. And I'm going to kind of go over each section and how you should fill it out. So the main thing that you need to remember is that you do have to include citations in your paper. There should be a reference list at the bottom of it, and you are also using in-text citations. Now, you've been practicing this quite a bit throughout the course because you had several assignments that were telling you to have citations and how to do them in APA format. Make sure that you review the video that I sent all of you about using Scribber and using the citation generator for your sources. An in-text citation should be the author plus the or the organization, depending on what source you're pulling from, and then the year published. So, for example, using this Environmental Protection Agency article, this would be the APA format, and then the in-text would be EPA, and then the year that it was published, which is 2022. So if you have any questions about that part, please make sure to reach out to me and I can give you those resources again, but they are required. If your paper doesn't have any citations, that's going to be a major deduction in points. So the first thing is that you're talking about your environmental issue. We covered this in the very beginning of the course, so this should be old hat to you. Whether you're, but the main thing is that, for some of you, I've been giving you feedback like, hey, your issue is not specific enough. So if you're still just doing a generalization of water pollution or air pollution, that's not good. You need to specify the pollutant, like what is the water pollution or what is the specific, gas in the air pollution? Is it ozone? Is it particulate matter? If you're doing climate change, then it shouldn't be just a general overview. It should be, what is the specific issue that climate change is causing? And you don't want to cover everything, right? So if there's a drought and it's also causing wildfires and also hurricanes, like you don't want to cover all that. You just want to talk about the drought. Or if you're talking about sea level rise, you just want to talk about sea level rise. If you have picked a species, make sure your focus is on just that one species and not a general, all the animals in the rainforest are dying sort of thing. So this is part 1 of your paper. It is addressing the environmental issue. This part in your paper originally came from milestone 1 in module 3. So make sure that you go back and look at the feedback that I gave you on that. Even if I told you that everything was great and you got a 100 on that project, there is still new information that is being introduced in this section. So don't just do a straight copy and paste of it. That's not going to serve you well. So the first thing that you should do is you need to describe the impact of the issue on the environment. So that's the first thing of your community or your state. This should be supported with outside sources in APA format, showing that there is an actual problem that is currently happening in your community or in your state. The second part is talking about the impact that the issue is having on human quality of life. So what is it doing to people's health? Are they not able to go out and recreate like they normally would? Is it affecting their ability to get jobs, or is it impacting their jobs negatively? And there should be some kind of examples in here. So number 1 was talking about basically what's happening to the environment. So what's happening to the ecosystem or what's happening to the wildlife. Whereas part 2, or sorry, not part 2, but question to is addressing how is it impacting human quality of life. The third question is asking you about the impact of the economy. So that's not considered the human quality of life part. The economy is separate. You need to find some kind of dollar amount or potential estimated losses that are occurring. So if jobs are being lost, how much money is being taken out of the economy? If this issue is, causing a decline in animals that we eat, or, food that we harvest, then how much are those losses adding up to? So that's why I said some kind of dollar amount needs to be found, because anytime there's an environmental issue, there's some kind of economic cost to it. Now, the new parts of this paper is you're describing societal reactions to this issue and describing political reactions to the issue. So how is society reacting to your problem? Are they concerned? Is there any activism involved? Do people not seem concerned? And there needs to be some kind of support with this. This is not opinion based. So you're looking, you might have to do an internet search to find out how are people reacting to this problem. The political reactions, you would want to look at, okay, what are people on the city council doing? What is happening at a state level? What could be happening at a federal level? Are Congress people doing or enacting any laws in regards to this environmental issue? The opposite of that is nothing being done. Do politicians not seem concerned with this? But if you're going to go that route, you need to support this with evidence. Again, this is not opinion based, okay? So that's part one. Part two goes into sustainable solutions. Now, this originally came from milestone 2 in module 5. So you've seen this before. There's not new information being added here. So you're supposed to be describing a sustainable solution that has been proposed by the scientific community. So this is a solution that you have already researched and scientists are saying, yes, this will work. Now, it doesn't have to fix your environmental issue permanently, but it should be helping to reduce the impacts. And then you're explaining why it's sustainable. So remember that sustainable means that it's a balanced approach that preserves the long-term well-being of the community and the environment. So it's something that can be maintained over time. It's not supposed to be this outlandish, super expensive, we're going to have to keep paying $1 billion every year to make it run. That is not sustainable, right? Then you're going to talk about the total amount of time that it takes to implement the solution from start to finish. Again, that's going to have to be supported with resources. You can estimate the time as long as it's reasonable and supported. Perhaps the solution hasn't been implemented yet. That's fine. But if you're talking about, something needs to be built, maybe a desalination plant needs to be built to solve the drought issue, you need to find some kind of evidence that talks about how long does it take to implement a desalination plant. Then you need to look at how much do these things cost. So how much is all the cost factored into implementing the solution? Where is that funding going to come from? Is it going to come from taxes? Is it going to come from federal grants? Is it going to come from, private donations? Where is that coming from? So dollar amounts need to be listed here, a cost of implementing the solution. There should be some kind of estimate or actual dollar amount. After that, you're going to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of the solution. This needs to be pretty detailed. Don't give generalizations the advantages is that there will no longer be a problem. There needs to be some kind of advantage to the community. There needs to be some kind of advantage, maybe to the economics of the community, to the health of the people. And then, of course, the disadvantages could be something okay, well, it is going to be costly at first, or, people are going to have to give up something in order for this to work. And then the last thing is, what are the environmental consequences if the solution is not implemented? So what is going to happen to the environment if this solution is not done. Part 3 is not completely new, I shouldn't say that. Some of this originated in discussion 6, but there's other things that are a little bit new. But this is discussing your personal impact to this issue. So the first thing you're going to talk about is what is a personal habit that you have that is contributing to this issue, and explain how it contributes to this issue. So for instance, like if you're discussing climate change is based on greenhouse gas emissions. You would talk about, maybe how much carbon emissions that you are emitting each day from driving or from your electricity usage or whatever, and then talking about how it contributes to, climate change in your community. If you have chosen something like nutrient pollution, you would look at, what kind of chemicals that you might be putting on your lawn or putting down the drain that could be impacting, the water levels. Make sure that whatever habit you choose is something that actually aligns with the issue that you chose. So like you should not be talking about climate change if your if your issue was about water pollution. You shouldn't be talking about deforestation if your issue was about microplastics. So make sure they align. And then the next part is you're going to talk about how you can promote the solution that you discussed in part 2. So the original sustainable solution that you put into part 2 of the paper. How can you promote that in your daily life? Are you going to make changes in your daily life? How can you promote it to the community? Like, are you going to get involved with some environmental activism? Or how are you going to educate the community about the solution? You might have to vote a certain way. And then finally, you're going to describe how you can promote environmental responsibility in general in your local community. So what are you going to do to make sure that, your community is being environmentally responsible when it comes to, maybe clean air or clean water, or helping with climate change, or getting rid of plastics, or, eliminating certain pollution that's in your community. So how can you promote that? So that is all of your paper. So this is just kind of giving you, the breakdown of of everything that should be included. I would recommend that you have like your heading, and then these are subheadings, and then you have your answers underneath them, right? So your heading for part 1 would be environmental issue, and then you would type impact on environment, and you would discuss that. Then the next subheading, you would have human quality of life, and then your answer underneath it, and just going all the way down. And then at the very bottom of your paper should be your reference list of all your citations that you used. Now, remember, it's not enough just to list them. You also need to have the in-text citations throughout your paper showing, where you used these references in your paper. Because if you just have a list and you don't show, where you used that EPA resource, that's not too helpful. Okay, so that's why the in-text citations are required. But again, if you have any problems with that, let me know. And that's it. I think that you're all going to do great, and just make sure that you're really putting your best effort into this, and that you're submitting it on time so you don't have any kind of, late penalties. Again, copying and pasting from your previous milestones, I wouldn't recommend that. I mean, you can do it on some things, but just make sure that it's meeting all the criteria. There is a rubric associated with this final project, so you can use that as a checklist as well.